school shooting. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Good evening, Ms. Rodriguez. Could you call the roll for tonight's meeting, please?
Councilmember Bill De La Pena.
Present.
Councilmember Price.
Here.
Councilmember Adam.
Here.
Councilmember McCoy.
Present.
Mayor Fox.
I am here. Item 4 is request for continuance of any agenda or public hearing item. Do we have any requests for continuance? All right, hearing none, we'll move to item 5, that's special presentations. Give me a moment. For our presentation this evening, I'd like to invite to the podium Scott Mixstroth. He is the president-elect of the Ventura County chapter of the American Public Works Association. Scott has an award for the City of Thousand Oaks that he'd like to present to our community. Scott, good evening. Thank you.
I'm here tonight on behalf of the Ventura County chapter of the American Public Works Association to present to City of Thousand Oaks our 2017 Project of the Year Award for the transportation projects greater than $5 million. Before I begin, I'd like to present, before I give my presentation of the award, I'd like to give a quick summary of the American Public Works Association. The APWA is a 30,000 person member organization of public works staff, management, and their consultants. The APWA's goal is to provide education and networking opportunities that help public works personnel grow their professionalism and directly improve the quality of life in the communities we serve. Our local Ventura chapter is comprised of 285 members, of which over 15 are from the City of Thousand Oaks. The local chapter meets monthly over lunch in a forum where we can foster networking. We usually have about 100 attendees at each of our lunches. We then end with a relevant technical presentation or something on current topic. Based on a percentage of monthly attendance, the Ventura branch is the most it's the most recognized branch as being the most organized branch in the nation. As an aside, I'd like everyone to know that the City of Thousand Oaks was the first agency in Ventura County and the 63rd in the nation to be accredited by the APWA for recognition of best management practices and procedures. The activity of our chapter and the involvement of the local public works professionals is indicative of the drive within this area and specifically to the City of Thousand Oaks itself to improve the built environment of our communities. The following Project of the Year Award, which I'm now going to present, highlights the sole agenda of the City of Thousand Oaks, the City of Thousand Oaks Public Works Department to improve the community. I would like to invite up Nader Hidari. Nader, this is a plaque for the Thousand Oaks capital projects. The project itself was for Teal Boulevard. It was the undergrounding of overhead utilities, Edison's 66,000 volt electrical lines, Edison's 16,000 volt distribution lines, along with Spectrum's and Crown Castle's communication lines over the 1.5 mile stretch between the city's namesake thoroughfare and Duesenberg Drive to Westlake Boulevard. The project provides citywide benefits in terms of enhanced aesthetics, improved electrical network reliability, and improved public safety. Ancillary benefits include improved sidewalks and ADA accessibility and providing room for future stadium expansion of the Westlake High School. The project, which included 2 years of design and 1 year of construction, met the completion goals of being under budget, on time, and with minimal adverse community impact. The success of this project is based on teamwork, including the direction of Jay Spurgeon and Cliff Finley, the management of Nodder, the detailed design and implementation of the Public Works staff and their consultants. With that, I would like to congratulate the city on receiving the 2017 Project of the Year Award in Transportation.
Thank you, Scott. And that's all the special presentations scheduled for this evening. We'll move to item 6. That's public comment. Madam Clerk, could you call public comment, please?
This is a time and place for public comments. A speaker card is available for those wishing to address the City Council regarding items on the agenda or on a subject within the city's jurisdiction. All remarks should be addressed to the council as a whole, and all documents for City Council and the official record should be presented to the City Clerk prior to speaking. Speakers are requested to state their name and community of residence for the record. Under state law, public comment matters may not be considered by the council unless listed on the agenda, but may be referred to the city manager for administrative follow-up. 7 individuals have presented cards, and pursuant to council standards, speakers are allowed 3 minutes. The yellow light displays when you have 1 minute remaining.
Thank you, Ms. Rodriguez. Our first speaker is Sherelle Hayink, followed by Christy Warner, followed by Kathy Carlson. Good evening, ma'am.
Hello there, Mayor and Council. Thank you for this opportunity to share some information with you. I am Cheryl Hink, resident of Thousand Oaks, and I am announcing an all-inclusive invitation to an event that will benefit yourself, poverty pockets in the world, and also struggling people right here in our own community, all in one afternoon event. It's a 3-in-1. Such a deal, such a deal. It's this time of year I'm known as Sheriff Cheryl. I am the recruiter for the 40th annual Conejo Valley Crop Hunger Walk. It happens on March 4th, and it begins and ends at CLU. Registration is free and begins at noon, and our walk starts at 1 o'clock. So 3-in-1. Number 1, how does it benefit you? The walkers have a choice of healthy distances, either a 6-mile route, we call that for the macho marchers, or the 4-mile route for the shortcut slackers. And we have a 20-minute campus stroll for the handicapped, the frail seniors, or for the whiny wusses. We don't care how you walk, but we would just love you to join us. So that's number 1. Number 2, how does it benefit the poverty pockets of the world? Crop Hunger Walk is a fundraiser. Walkers are encouraged to seek sponsors for their efforts, either online or using a collection envelope, which I will leave several here for the council members. There are over 1,000 crop hunger walks happening nationwide. And the umbrella organization takes the funds from the crop walks and uses them. The international organization is called Church World Service, which is a non-denominational agency which uses funds for materials, health supplies, education, and people to travel to areas in need of help, such as disasters, hurricanes, displacement, etc. So that's number 2, it helps the world. Number 3, how does the walk benefit local struggling agencies? Well, 25% of what we raise in this walk in our area is shared with MANA, which is our food bank, Meals on Wheels, we have 2 Meals on Wheels organizations that we support, and Lutheran Social Services that helps the homeless in our area, and we do have homeless. Last year, we had 435 walkers. We raised over $44,000, which was awesome. And that meant over $10,000 was used locally by these 3 agencies. So, City Council, members, and people of Conejo Valley, I urge you to show up at CLU Sunday, March 4th. Make it a 3-in-1 day for the Crop Hunger Walk. The information is online here. And I will leave 4 sponsor envelopes for usage. And it's Sheriff Cheryl, signing off. Hope to see you on Sunday, March 4th. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff. Our next speaker is Christy Warner, followed by Kathy Carlson. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor Fox and members of the City Council. I am Kelsey Sullivan, president of Weathersfield K-Kids. I am here tonight with Abby Garcia, a K-Kid member, and Xander Garcia, a Builders Club member, Kiwanis advisor, and my teacher, Kiwanis advisor, and event co-chair, Christy Warner from the Thousand Oaks Kiwanis Club. We'd like to give you some information about a community fundraiser, which will be fun for the whole family. The Thousand Oaks Kiwanis Club is presenting the Youth Sports Extravaganza, give-back games which will raise money to benefit local charities such as YMCA, Mana Food Bank, and the Thousand Oaks Kiwanis Club Charitable Foundation, which supports K-Kids, Builders Clubs, and Key Clubs in many CVUSD schools, along with 30 other charities.
Great job, Kelsey. This event is for kids ages 6 to 18. They're going to compete in 4 different age groups to assure fair and comfortable competitions. They will compete continuously for prizes in several different sports. Athletes from CLU will be giving mini sports clinics before each football, soccer, and basketball competition. Unlimited youth contest play is included in our registration fee. And we are also honoring and thanking our military, police, and fire department families by waiving that registration fee. There will be 2 two-hour contest periods for the kids to compete, with over 70 prizes awarded to the winners. These prizes were donated by our sponsors, which were the Sports Academy of Newbury Park, the Westlake Athletic Club, and Dojo Boom. We're also having community exhibition games going on as well. Our police department will play our fire department. By the way, the police department has beaten them every year. Go police. The Kiwanis is going to play the Rotary Club, and we all know how that went down. Sports Academy is going to play Dojo Boom. Boys and Girls Club will play the YMCA, and Bank of America is still looking for an opponent. Okay.
The Sparkles cheerleaders and TNT Dunk Squad will perform at halftime. We'll have food as well as vendors. Fun for the whole family.
All right, guys. We invite you to join us because together we can make a difference.
Great job.
Thank you.
Great job. Our next speaker is Kathy Carlson, followed by Lori Dingman. Good evening.
Good evening, everybody. I have a cold. I hope I don't start coughing. I'm here to speak to you about a possible land swap. I spoke to the school district about this and also Recon Park. There is a park called Kenyatta Park that is owned by the school district, but has been used by Recon Park for many years. But it's not developed. It's an unusual property near Sunset and Herbs when it crosses Olson Road. So, as you know, the school district sold property at near Cal Lutheran at University School, and they built something like 6 nice houses there on Los Arboles. So now that Measure E has changed into something that allows more building to happen, I think to help the school district get out of their terrible financial problem. Remember in December it was on the front page. So with all the problems that were happening, that's what my neighbors were talking about. They said, what is this $7 million shortfall? So what would have to happen is that the school district needs to decide, are they going to sell part of it, all of it, or what? And then because it's public, it has to go to bid, as you know, to either Recon Park, and they don't want to develop it, or the city could develop it, and if nobody wants it, then it could be sold to real estate developers. So now that building techniques have changed, and people can build on property that's like, the angle is like this. It is very steep up at the top of Zocalo. But I bet there's plenty of folks who would like half-acre properties with a killer sunset view. So I urge you all in the next few weeks to drive up to the top of Zocalo, to the top of this park, and look at the sunset. I've lived here 36 years, and I was stunned at how gorgeous the sunset is through the mountains at that place. So perhaps that's something that your planning people can look at and ask the school district if they'd like to sell some or all of it. And it could be win-win all the way around, because right now taxpayers, we're paying to have Park and Rec water and mow this piece of property that's only used by dogs and people who fly kites. There's no baseball field, there are no sidewalks, no bathrooms, no baseball, nothing there. So I urge your folks to go take a look and see if you could make a deal with the school district. And I don't want tons and tons of houses jammed in there like they did on University. Those are nice two-story houses, but it's an opportunity to have more room. I see my time's up. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Carlson. Next speaker is Lori Dingman, followed by Paul Orcutt.
I'll use the overhead. Does it go here?
Good evening, Ms. Dingman.
Good evening. Good evening. Council members, my name is Lori Dingman, and I've lived in Newbury Park since 1971. For the last 20 years, I have lived on Denise Street with my home backing the vacant property, which has been deemed a wetlands, located at the end of Alice Drive and next to the Borchard Road exit at the 101 freeway. There is a group of us here tonight that would like to bring this issue to you early and address our serious concerns regarding two articles that have been written recently in the Thousand Oaks Acorn regarding the attentions of Sean Muradian, who is the property owner. Back in 2004, when Centex Homes applied to the city to develop this property, it was determined to be wetlands by the Army Corps of Engineers, and additionally is on the wetland map held by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. These recent articles have stated that Sean Muradian is attempting to have the designation of wetland removed by the Army Corps of Engineers. And over the last couple of weeks, there have been several groups of people exploring and walking this property. It appears to be his active desire to move forward with development. We believe this property should not now, nor should it ever be developed. This property is deemed by FEMA as a flood zone. The county's watershed protection district designates it as a drainage point and calls it a right-of-way for periodic flooding where runoff is stored. They state that without it, water runoff would have nowhere to go and the neighboring housing developments could flood. It would certainly seem irresponsible to allow this property to be developed and to put our homes and lives at risk. The water table has always been very close to the surface, and any amount of rain will cause a pond. In fact, I have brought with me an aerial photo that was taken of this property in February, just this last year, showing the beautiful lake, which lasted a month and resulted from the heavy rains that we had at that time. This photo was not even taken at the high point, and a week earlier it had been much larger. The lake had been larger. Sean Muradian has stated that this property's issues have taken care of themselves by the addition of the water drainage ditch that was added by Caltrans next to the freeway. It's apparent to anyone, based on this picture, that this property is needed for times when our county has excessive rain. Additionally, the wash that runs behind our homes, the homes on Michael Drive, is already at max capacity and at times has been on the brink of overflow in the past. Our neighborhood is already overcongested. The addition of several hundred more cars attempting to drive down Alice Drive and Bella Drive onto the very overcongested Wendy Drive would be a disaster. Allowing Alice Drive to go through to Michael via the proposed bridge would make that road a main throughway and would become one of the busiest roads in the area, completely ruining our neighborhood, making it unsafe. Newbury Park is a semi-rural community, and we will stand firm against any attempts to force our area into dense population. We additionally are in need of the walk-up park guaranteed by the city's general plan. It would be disastrous to develop this property. Mr. Muradian is the president of the Thousand Oaks Business Association and leads the business development district known as the BID. His continuous dealings with the Planning Commission and City Council are extensive, and we want to be sure that Mr. Maradian is not given any special considerations by any board or committee at the city or county level. We ask that our safety and our quality of life take precedence over any desire to urbanize this area. The Santa Monica Mountain Conservancy has offered to purchase this property from Mr. Maradian. However, he has refused to sell the property because he wants an excessive amount of money for it. His family has been making money in the city for over 60 years, and we are hopeful that in good faith and as proof that he cares about the well-being of the city and its residents, that he would sell this property to the Conservancy. And in the event that he will not do that, we are calling on each of you and asking you to stand by the current residents of this city and to say no to any proposed plan to develop this parcel. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Dickman. Our next speaker is Paul Orcutt, followed by Adam Haverstock. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Mayor Fox and council members. My name is Paul Orcutt. I live at 930 Bright Star Street in Thousand Oaks. I've lived in this home for 33 years. To give you a little perspective, my home backs, it's on the intersection of Avenida de los Arboles and Big Sky Drive, better known as the entrance to Wildwood. I'm here to just give you a little bit of a brief history of what's happened in my neighborhood and the progress that's being made and the things that still need to be done. Up until now, this past year, I have never felt the need to speak before the City Council and ask for a thing. This has been a wonderful place for me to grow up because I've lived here since 1969 and for me to raise my family. The city has always exceeded my expectations in every way. In this past year, we've had some issues where I live that I felt needed both the Park Department and the Traffic Commission and the City Council's attention. And those, while there have been improvements, I'm concerned that they need to be sustained. Just a brief update. When I first talked to the Park Department, I had 3 simple requests, and one was if they could do something about the dust emanating off of that dirt parking lot onto my property, keep reasonable operating hours because it was a 24/7 operation, and do something to try to prevent their patrons from trespassing on my property. I believe those to be pretty simple requests. Some have been improved, but there's still some work to be done. Back in July, the Park Department did put down a dust suppressant on the dirt parking lot, which has now failed, unfortunately, and it's back to the way it was. They did hire a security company to close the gates during the hours of from 9 p.m. until 6-ish in the morning, which has helped some from kids going out there and doing donuts in the parking lot. But I am still having to call Thousand Oaks Police Department quite often for people that are entering after hours, boisterous, partying, and that kind of thing. And I must say, the Thousand Oaks Police Department has been incredible. There's a couple of other things that have been done. They've taken some old, decrepit sawhorses and posted signs telling people not to park in our neighborhood and put them on our sidewalks. They are unsightly and not really what I've grown to love in Thousand Oaks as far as the aesthetics go. We were told that we could get permit parking in our neighborhood because on the weekends there's throngs of people that are running through our yards and creating all kinds of parking hazards and everything else. Unfortunately, whoever decided the impacted area, it's numerous blocks away, and the people that aren't right in it aren't really interested in signing that petition, and so we failed in gathering enough signatures. I just urge the City Council to take a really close look at this and do what you can to prevent this from becoming something like what is going on in a more urban area in Los Angeles in Runyon Canyon. Thousand Oaks has always had the reputation of being different than some of those urban areas, and I'd like to see that tradition continue. Thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you, sir. Adam Haverstock, followed by our last speaker will be Gene Gear. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. Adam Haverstock. I'm the Director of Government Affairs and Tourism at the Greater Conejo Valley Chamber of Commerce. First, a couple thank yous. Thank you to the mayor and to the members of the city's executive leadership team. We had Leadership Conejo hosted here at the City of Thousand Oaks 2 weeks ago on Friday, and the mayor came and gave a wonderful welcome to the group. And also several members of the executive leadership team did a panel discussion talking about their collective experience in public service leadership. And it was a really wonderful, wonderful program. So thank you very much for everyone who participated. And thanks to Mina Leba who put that all together. She's back there, but thank you, Mina. Also, a thank you to Melissa Hurtado, who came and spoke at the Chamber's Legislative Roundtable last week on the city's process to implement the state's new marijuana laws. And so I know that was a fascinating topic, and thank you to her for doing that. The Chamber is going to be having its annual awards gala on Friday, March 2nd, in about 2 weeks here at Calamigos Ranch. We are excited to announce who our honorees are going to be that night. Our Man of the Year is going to be from the City of Thousand Oaks, Haider Alawami, the city's Economic Development Manager. We're very happy with all the work he has done over the years to help move forward the Thousand Oaks Boulevard Specific Plan Project and 100 other things that he has done. So thank you very much to him. Our Woman of the Year is going to be Diane McKay from Mustang Marketing, also a member of the Ventura County Community College District Board, a wonderful leader in our community. And our Business of the Year is Ventura County Credit Union, and our Nonprofit of the Year is the Thousand Oaks Boulevard Association for all of their hard work. So them and several other folks are going to be honored on Friday, March 2nd, and we would love to have whoever is available come and support those folks. There are tickets for sale at ConejoChamber.org if anyone would like to attend. And then I also wanted to talk a little bit about tourism, the tourism district. We finished our year end with the Conejo Valley Tourism District. I often talk about RevPAR, revenue per available room, that stat we use to track the success of the district. We finished with a RevPAR of $103.82, which was well above the $90 that we had projected when we budgeted at the beginning of the year. So we think that was a wonderful result. Really, really excellent news. The tourism district is now on television. We are buying TV ads in select markets in Los Angeles and Orange counties. We're buying both commercials on live TV, they call it linear buys, and then also video on demand for people that go and watch, just kind of 10 episodes of a TV show. They play these commercials in between episodes when you go back to rewatch them. So really wonderful news there. And we've developed a partnership with Sports Academy over in Newbury Park. Sports Academy is promoting our local hotels to all of their tournament directors and all of their team organizers in order to get people to stay in our local hotels. And they've also allowed us to come into the facility to bring in visitor guides, to play commercials on their television screens throughout their facility during tournaments in order to bring people out. I do see I've run out of time, so I'll skip the rest of my remarks unless there are any questions. That does conclude my report this evening.
Thank you, Adam.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Gene Gear, and that will be followed by David Lake. Good evening, sir.
Mr. Mayor and Council, thanks for listening. My name is Gene Gear. I live in Newbury Park, and I've lived in Newbury Park, the same house, for 54 years. We bought it brand new. Casa Conejo, it's on Bella Drive, and it's a speedway. I'm out there 3 or 4 times a day telling people to slow down. Fox Meadows came in, and the traffic got worse. Now it looks like somebody's trying to put some houses in the wetlands, which is wetlands. I'm just voicing that the traffic on our street is bad enough now. I can't imagine what another... I heard 118 and I heard 180. I don't know what the right number is, but he wants to build some houses there, and Mr. Maradian is... I feel out of line. I don't think we should allow it. About when Fox Meadows, somebody built there, and I believe it was Fox Meadows, there was money put aside for a bridge over the wash. $239,000 or $250,000. 6 in my mind, I'm not positive. It's been many years ago. And bridge was never built. It was supposed to come out by where Stella's restaurant is there. The bridge was never built, and I'm curious why, and if not, and if that did happen, where it is. Getting back to Bella Drive, that's what I'm more interested in, is the traffic. It's bad. And I would not like to see it get any worse. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Gear. Our last speaker is David Lake. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. My name's Dave Lake. I'm a resident of Thousand Oaks. I live adjacent to Wildwood Park, and I'm here to talk about the parking lot at the end of Arbalest that serves Wildwood Park. The crowd situation, the number of cars using this parking lot is out of control. I've been here before to bring it up to City Council last September. I was referred to COSCA. COSCA is no longer speaking to me. CRPD hasn't responded. I've been referred to the city attorney who doesn't respond either. There is a real deleterious effect on our neighborhood of having 60 to 100 cars parked in this parking lot virtually all day, every day, during fair weather weekends and school holidays. It's not the number of people that's using the park, it's the number of cars, the number of car alarms constantly going off, the doors slamming starting at 5, 6 in the morning, sometimes at 4 in the morning. People show up in groups and use this entrance to Wildwood Park. There are over 24 entrances to Wildwood Park, trailheads where people can park on streets and other parking areas. There are 10 large parking areas that provide access to trailheads in Wildwood Park. 9 of them are virtually empty most of the time. One of them, which is 60 feet from my bedroom window, is published as the main address of Wildwood Park. It is promoted heavily by CRPD through their outdoor program. It is used by groups and organizations. People sell things there. It's kind of a commercial parking lot scene in the middle of a tranquil suburban neighborhood. I don't believe our neighborhood is zoned to have a large commercial parking lot, but it's basically like a 24-hour fitness going on right outside our windows. It really has to stop. The other 9 large parking areas are available and could be they could be publicized, and they're not. The COSCA is just committed to using $250,000 of FEMA funding to build a bridge to connect the Conejo open space trail system to the Wildwood Trail system. There's a large parking area at the end of Rancho Conejo where there are no houses anywhere near there. They don't publicize it. Hill Canyon provides parking for 150 cars. It's not publicized. Most park users don't know about it, and it's a much easier hike from that trailhead to the waterfall than it is from the end of Arbalest to the waterfall and then back out. Many of these other parking lots have flush toilets. They're paved, they're properly drained and landscaped. They're just not publicized. I need COSCA to do something to mitigate the crowd that's ruining my neighborhood. I'm out of time, so I guess I'm
Thank you, Mr. Lake.
Thank you.
That concludes our speaker cards. We have 2 written statement cards from a Bill Casey and a Bill Watson. They both deal with the Meridian property out in Newbury Park. We'll move now to item 7. That's the consent calendar. Any items the council wants? Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Powers, do you want to comment on public comment?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. In regards to the 2 special events that were mentioned, our staff will certainly work with them to make sure that those are publicized on our community calendar. As it relates to concerns around Wildwood Park, we heard from a couple speakers on that. As the first speaker mentioned, staff has been engaged along with CRPD and a variety of other stakeholders in working on collaborative solutions out there over the past couple of years. It is a ongoing challenge and focus, and we continue to remain willing participants working with CRPD and COSCA to bring that forward. I think there has been some significant progress made. As it relates to questions regarding the vacant property, as that is out near Alice Drive. I can assure all speakers this evening the city does not have any active applications for any development on that site, and have had no meetings to that effect. I know there was coverage in the local newspaper on that, but there's certainly nothing pending and nothing in process for that. As a number of the speakers alluded to, there's certainly significant development challenges associated with that property that would have to be addressed before anything would occur there. So from a mitigation standpoint, that's it for follow-up.
Thank you, Mr. Powers. Now we'll move to item 7. That's the consent calendar. Any items council would like to call special? Ms. Bilda de Pena.
7G.
7G. Any others? All right, hearing none, we'll entertain a motion for the balance of the consent calendar. Ms. Bilda de Pena.
Move the remainder of the consent calendar minus item 7G.
Okay, Ms. Bilda de Pena moves the consent calendar. We're going to call 7G special. Discussion? Prepare the vote.
That motion passes 5-0.
And that is approved. Item 7G, Ms. Bilda de Pena.
Thank you, Mayor Fox. 7G deals with the Clean Power Alliance, which the City of Thousand Oaks recently joined after unanimous approval by the Council in December. And I am representing the City of Thousand Oaks on a board of, right now, 26 jurisdictions, and it's growing because more and more cities are signing on. And in that capacity, I will every now and then come forward with proposals for council approval before I will vote representing the City of Thousand Oaks on any given item. And tonight deals with the rate for renewable energy. And that rate by staff is recommended at 50%. And I wanted Mr. Spurgeon, perhaps, or Dr. Cox to weigh in. But Mr. Spurgeon is sitting right there already. About why we're going with 50% rather than 100, and why an in-between of 75% was not available at this time.
Thank you, Council Member. Yes, staff is recommending that a default renewable energy level of 50%, that's 50% renewable content, be established for when the city when the rollout of energy from the Clean Power Alliance takes place later this year for residents and for businesses. Our current incumbent energy provider, Southern California Edison's, energy content is somewhere around the 34% renewable content. The 50% renewable content offered by the CPA is less expensive than the current Edison 34%. At 100% renewable, which is an option, that actually is more expensive, slightly than Edison's current level. Any resident or business who is interested in changing one way or the other from the 50% default may do so. They have the option to do that at any time. And so if someone is interested in being more renewable, they certainly can do that and choose to pay the slight increase in costs. One of the members of the CPA had suggested sort of an in-between between about 75% that would actually be cost neutral to what Edison is currently charging. That has not been approved yet by the CPA board, although I suspect that may be discussed additionally in the future. So, thank you.
Thank you. And as I mentioned, we will make some significant decisions that, in my opinion, warrant council approval before I vote representing the City of Thousand Oaks. We normally don't do that in our other capacities as, say, via, the Regional Sanitation District or VCTC. But this being as new as it is and as exciting as it is and as impactful as it will be, I think, should really require council approval. And with that, if there are no questions, I move approval of item 7G.
Okay, Ms. Bilda de Pena moves 7G. Discussion on her motion. Prepare the vote.
The motion passes 5-0.
And that is approved. We have no public hearings tonight, and so we'll move to item 9. That's department reports. We have 2 department reports. Our first will be 9A. That's the homeless update and discussion. And for that, Mr. Rogers, our acting assistant city manager, is going to provide a report along with Chief Hagel. Good evening, gentlemen.
Thank you, Mayor Fox, members of the City Council. One of the Council's top priorities for fiscal 2017-2018 was the coordination and support of a regional approach to homelessness. Tonight, we are going to provide an overview of programs and activities that are currently in progress. You're going to hear from our police chief, city staff, and a representative from Ventura County. This coming Thursday, agencies and volunteers across the county are going to begin the 2018 homeless count. It seems an opportune time for us to reflect on our role as a partner addressing this complex humanitarian issue. While the 2017 numbers have declined in Ventura County by approximately 10%, they have risen significantly in neighboring LA County, up over 23%. Statewide, the homeless population increased a little under 14% last year. What these numbers can tell us is this number certainly, or these issues have impacts locally, but regionally and statewide, it also contributes to what's happening here in the city of Thousand Oaks. So these numbers are a snapshot of a diverse and transitory population of individual men and women, youth, families, veterans, and chronically homeless that live in cars, motels, and on the streets and in our open space. So there's no single issue or single answer, I should say, to deal with this very complex issues. What we do have is social services, law enforcement, nonprofits, state and local governments, all playing a key role in connecting people to services and keeping our communities safe and helping us understand and impact homelessness. So many entities are working collaboratively every day to provide homeless services. Lutheran Social Services, Under One Roof, Food Share, the many local houses of worship here in Thousand Oaks, and a variety of service groups all contribute. The folks I've identified are just a few of the entities that are providing that help and those services. There are many more. Together, these organizations with county resources have worked together to build and support an effective safety net of locally based support services anchored by the countywide resources. Shelter for up to 40 individuals is provided during the winter months, and up to 80 meals a day are provided year-round at various faith-based organizations. The Thousand Oaks Police Department liaisons are keeping communities safe while providing important linkages to social services. Behind the scenes, City, CRPD, and COSCA staff are also addressing the impacts of homeless living on residents, businesses, and open space. I'd like to turn the presentation over to our police chief, Tim Hagel, so he can provide an update on the activities of the police department.
Thank you, Mr. Rogers. Mr. Mayor, Council, and the public, I wanted to talk a little bit about the police department's role in helping with the effects of homelessness in the Conejo Valley. Policing is a 24-hour-a-day operation, and homelessness is a 24-hour-a-day operation. Homelessness is not a crime. However, some of the effects that occur out of homelessness are. And as I talk about our activities that we do in law enforcement with our vulnerable population officer, it's really important to stress that all citizens are treated fairly, and it really doesn't matter if somebody violates a law, whether they live in a home or they're homeless, they're treated the same. And that's really important to point out. One of the interesting facts, if you look at the slide in front of you, is that 60% of the police officers here in town contact 2 or more homeless individuals per shift. That's a lot of police officers, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, having contacts with the homeless. And it's really important to point out that we are the primary front link to the social services because we have the primary contacts, but also that these are only the homeless persons that we're meeting on the streets. There are many homeless people that are living in cars or other means that we do not come in contact with. Officers conduct weekly outreach with the social services staff to the most vulnerable individuals. We talk and provide information on local resources and try to link each person with available services. Since starting our outreach with the social services, many of our homeless persons had no ideas at the field level of the amount of services that are available for them in the Conejo Valley. Our homeless vulnerable population officer is here in our audience right here, Juan Cordova, and he happens to be the first vulnerable population officer in the history of Thousand Oaks. And Juan spends 135 contacts per month is his average. That's separate of all the regular patrol officers. And if you're really trying to give you a visualization, Juan is out on the streets every day with specialists from mental health and social services, and also behavioral health specialists trying to help the homeless get them actually to services. Back in 2017, it was really important for the police department examining the local challenges to see that the field level persons providing services to homelessness, that there was a disconnect, and that while you're going to hear later about situational awareness of homelessness throughout the whole county, within the eastern end of the county, you had Simi Valley doing their thing and their police department and behavioral health, and Thousand Oaks doing theirs, and Moore Park. And in the Conejo Valley, all of these services may not be necessarily talking to one another. And in 2017 and throughout the entire year, Officer Cordova took it in his hands to meet biweekly with all of the stakeholders, giant meetings, and come up with objectives for all of the folks to shoot towards 2018. And you can see many of these are addressing service resistance by homelessness. And what that is that Juan kicked off that every law enforcement officer in the Conejo Valley, as they interact with homeless people every shift, they make sure that we have a database, and they make sure that we offer them services, actually tell them how to get to the services, and then that's documented so that we can make sure that we're fairly offering services to the people throughout the valley. An example of our public outreach is our Make Our Spare Change count, and also trying to limit the effects of panhandling. Panhandling in itself is not a crime, and the federal and state courts have held that. Now, there are many ancillary laws that are affected, such as if they're interacting or interfering with traffic and such. But Thousand Oaks Police Department in late 2016-17 started an innovative approach, and you can see a slide on the monitor, where outside of our many of our big box stores, where we actually have police department signs out there in cooperation from our local businesses to try to reduce panhandling. Panhandling and giving money direct to somebody in that situation can and does lead to them making some improper social choices with that money, and it's our belief that it's far better for them to use that money and support local charities that help the people. Yep, we have thank you, Gary. We have on our website, on the Thousand Oaks website, we have online resources. And if you go to the city website, or you can even Google Conejo Connections, and it'll be the very first hit that you get on Google. And when you click on this website, you're going to see the actual brochures that we hand out to our vulnerable homeless in the Conejo Valley. It's unbelievable. It's such a comprehensive list of services that are available for persons. And public education and outreach is such a huge portion of the police department, and we're asking help from citizens and community members to really go to this site, and the more we can educate everybody, will have an exponential effect for helping the homeless. With that in mind, what I'd like to do now is turn it over to Jay Spurgeon to talk about public works effects with homelessness.
Thanks, Chief. As noted, there are many stakeholders involved in addressing homelessness in our community, and the Public Works Department also has a key role. Just in the past 5 years, Public Works staff have assisted with landscape clearing, public improvements, and cleanup of encampments at 20 different locations throughout Thousand Oaks. These efforts were closely coordinated with the police department, COSCA, Caltrans, social services, property owners, and many others. Our focus is always on protecting health and safety, providing public access to trails and other areas, and mitigating environmental hazards. Additionally, COSCA rangers clean up on average 4 encampments per month throughout the publicly owned open space that surrounds our community. Open space area encampments are of particular concern during fire season and heavy rainstorms when there is a heightened danger to the public and to the homeless individuals themselves. A recent example of improvements completed by Public Works staff is along the pedestrian path between Boardwalk and Moore Park Road. This was behind the CVS store over there. Improvements there included tamper-resistant LED lighting, clearing and thinning landscaping, and placing decorative rock. The Public Works Department will remain committed to working with the Citywide Homelessness Task Force as we move forward. And Library Director Heather Cousin will continue our presentation now.
Thank you. This is part of a larger conversation that libraries have been having nationwide. This is what libraries have been experiencing is one of the few open public spaces, open to all, equity of access to all. Libraries have been dealing with homelessness and issues surrounding that for decades and continue to deal with that, and our library in Thousand Oaks is no exception. One of the things that libraries have done traditionally is serve as that social service connector. So not only do we provide the workforce development, professional development opportunities through our resources, but in Thousand Oaks in particular, we are offering the information that people would need to connect with the social services, as Chief Hagel was outlining them, and those things that are available through some of our faith-based initiatives and other nonprofits throughout the area. And one of the things that makes this particularly useful in the Thousand Oaks Library is this coordinated response. We've met several times with our homeless services officer. We've worked with our task force to, again, deal with the behavior, not with the individuals, but when available and appropriate, connecting those people, as we do with all of our resources, to those things that they may need and they may not yet be aware of. As I said, this is an ongoing national conversation, and some of the other approaches that have been used in larger urban settings have been things like recruiting actual social services and social workers to work in libraries. And those are things that we have looked at and explored in our area and will continue to do so that we make sure that all our needs are met in this community, not just for those experiencing homelessness, but for the larger community. And with that, I'd like to turn it back to Mr. Rogers.
Thank you, Heather. One of the ways in which the city provides direct support to homelessness-related programs is through the distribution of Community Development Block Grant and Social Service Endowment Fund grants. The grants for 2017-18 support services for homeless persons and households at risk for homelessness. We have provided grants to Lutheran Social Services for Emergency Assistance Program and the Winter Shelter Program at rotating sites. And it also included the 365-day hot evening meal program. There was funding set aside for St. Vincent de Paul Society at St. Pascal's. It's an all-volunteer group that provides one-time rental, mortgage, or utility payment assistance, grocery vouchers, other services for extremely low-income city residents. The County of Ventura Human Services Agency had RAIN Transitional Living Center support of a little under $8,000. It's the only year-round transitional living facility for homeless families in Ventura County. and we provided a little less than $3,000 to the Turning Point Foundation, Our Place Safe Haven. It's the only 365-day, 24/7 shelter for homeless of mentally ill persons in Ventura County. So changing state and federal policy impacts funding for the homelessness resources and services. The city's legislative affairs staff closely monitors that policy and continues to identify opportunities and challenges at the state and federal level. I would now like to introduce Tara Caruth. She's the program manager at the Ventura County Continuum of Care, and she can provide you an overview of some of the services provided by the county.
Evening. As Mr. Rogers mentioned, my name is Tara Caruth. I work in the county executive office and manage the Continuum of Care program. I want to talk to you a little bit. The Continuum of Care program is a regional planning and policy group formed to address homelessness across the county. The mission of the group is to make homelessness rare, brief, and non-recurring. The formation of the group is partially required as part of receiving over $2 million in HUD funding under the same name. Ventura County applies annually for this highly competitive funding. The HUD COC funding, as Mr. Rogers mentioned, has shifted its priorities and is now primarily focused on permanent housing programs, both supportive housing and rapid rehousing, which I'll tell you a little more about in a moment. The COC also makes funding recommendations for another HUD funding program, the Emergency Solutions Grant Program, which is routed through in the community in several through Oxnard, the county, and the state. That is the only HUD funding source that's dedicated for emergency shelter. The group works with stakeholders from all sectors, including local government, law enforcement, healthcare, social services, housing providers, education, faith, and business communities, and also includes the voice of people who are homeless or formerly homeless to help make data-driven decisions about interventions and programs that effectively end homelessness for all people in Ventura County. The COC is now beginning the process of developing an updated regional plan to address homelessness and will include all the stakeholders in that process. This slide shows the Continuum of Care structure. The Continuum of Care Alliance makes up the full membership of all the stakeholders and annually ratifies the governance charter and board membership. The board receives information from Continuum of Care staff, as myself and one other staff member, service providers, advocates, and the COC committees, which you'll see on the bottom row, to make recommendations, funding recommendations, and policy recommendations for the countywide homeless services system. The committees include broad membership and include several members of City of Thousand Oaks staff. VCOG serves as our regional interagency council on homelessness and receives biannual reports from the Continuum of Care on needs, successes, and challenges. The makeup of the Continuum of Care board members. They represent various stakeholder groups and areas of the county. City Manager Drew Powers and Area Housing Authority Executive Director Michael Nye both serve on the board and here in Conejo Valley. And then any COC Alliance member has the ability to nominate board members when there's a vacancy. I'm going to shift into some data. This is a look at our homeless count information, as was mentioned, is coming up on Thursday. One of the focuses of the Continuum of Care is to assess community needs. The annual homeless count is one of many ways that we look at data. The homeless count is a snapshot of one night or day of homelessness in Ventura County. This number may seem low to you, so I'll give you a little bit of context for that number. HUD estimates that over the course of 1 year, you'll see 3 to 4 times that number of people experiencing homelessness in your community. Last year, our annual number from our homeless services system was nearly 3,400 people, 3 times the number of the homeless count. And that only includes the people that sought services. While our trends show a slight decline over the past several years, we are aware that that's not true for all of the subpopulations of overall homeless community. Specifically, the people who are visibly homeless, or what HUD likes to call chronically homeless, and live on the streets of our communities. Family homelessness, thankfully, has significantly dropped in Ventura County over the past several years, and mostly that is a result of specific funding that's tailored to the families with children. We've also seen veteran homelessness decline as a result of dedicated supportive housing resources, or the VASH voucher program, in the community. This gives a little more context. So on one side, you see the homeless count number, which is the unsheltered and sheltered numbers of what HUD defines as literally homeless. People who are sleeping in places not meant for human habitation, which would include those who are on the street, in parks, vehicles, garages, encampments, or are in programs, emergency shelter, transitional housing. The homeless count in the HUD Continuum of Care program is focused on those people that meet HUD's definition of homelessness. You will also see in this slide the Department of Education and Federal Department of Education and Health and Human Services define homelessness much more broadly and include people who are doubled up or couch surfing or paying for their own motel rooms. We continue to work with our community partners to share data and inform the community on the full spectrum of the housing needs. And then a little focus on how we are organizing our regional system. Pathways to Home is our local coordinated entry system that launched countywide in October of 2016. The system was built in partnership with service providers and advocates to streamline the process for persons seeking housing assistance and to connect them as quickly and efficiently to available resources. The previous system was regionally fragmented and required people shopping around, going from agency to agency to see if they could receive services. All partner providers now use the same screening and assessment tools to determine eligibility for programs countywide and make direct referrals through the Homeless Management Information System, HMIS, database. Weekly case conferencing is held with all of our service providers countywide to prioritize limited transitional housing and supportive housing resources for the most vulnerable clients. Other referrals are made directly for emergency shelter, case management services, homeless prevention, and rapid rehousing. This shows you a menu of some of the services that may be available to people in need of assistance. The services that are available to persons countywide are the homelessness prevention and rapid rehousing programs that are administered by the County Human Services Agency and nonprofit agencies such as LSS in the Conejo Valley. Rapid rehousing is short to medium-term rental assistance, including security deposit and case management services that help people get back into housing as quickly as possible. The program is highly successful with an over 90% success rate of participants staying housed after receiving assistance. Challenges associated with the program include limited housing availability that's affordable for program participants. Supportive housing, such as what is offered by many mansions, is also highly effective with very few returns to homelessness. And lastly, you'll see a slide of all of the partner agencies that participate in Pathways to Home. Many mansions and LSS are key partners in the Conejo Valley. We continue to bring more service providers on board to participate as they learn the value of participating in this regional system, which helps us to better understand our community needs and work together to serve the most vulnerable people. And I will just leave you with that the Continuum of Care and the County of Ventura stand ready to partner with communities across the county on implementing effective programs and services that reduce homelessness. Thank you. Back to you. Thank you.
Just to provide some concluding comments to the council and to the public. What we've endeavored to do this evening is to provide you a very broad, high-level overview of what is quite a nuanced issue. Historically, the city of Thousand Oaks, as we do not offer traditional social service programs, has served in the role of convener. And when you're a convener, there's always more that you can do to assist in bringing parties together. That being said, we have made some significant strides in the past year, and want to commend our police chief, Tim Hagel, just in one example of that, working within existing resources to assign a vulnerable populations officer to address an issue of significant need. And that's really paid dividends in terms of connecting some of these things forward, working collaboratively with our Public Works Department, our library, and so on. As you can see from the breadth of staff presenting this evening, this touches all areas of the municipal enterprise and certainly touches businesses in this community. We have a number of nonprofit and faith-based organizations, some of which are in the audience this evening, that play a critical role in that safety net that Gary Rogers mentioned just a little while ago. Recent discussions occurring across the county on homelessness have really focused on regional collaboration. And as we look at potential solutions going forward, the Continuum of Care Board, which was just stood up in the last couple of years, provides a great central point of contact that's trying to unify a lot of these disparate organizations. And I think that gives us a great jumping off point from which the city of Thousand Oaks can partner with regional players throughout the Ventura County area. I want to say a quick note of thanks to Tara Caruth she's actually a resident of Thousand Oaks as well, from coming down from the county chief executive office. Because they are the key player in helping to provide these services, they have to be at the table along with us in working collaboratively. So with that, we have a number of staff both on the dais and in the audience that will stand ready to answer any questions from the City Council, and we look forward to your feedback.
Thank you, Mr. Powers. Just Council's information, there is one speaker card in this item. Do we have any questions for staff? All right, let me go to the speaker card. Amy Yukich. Good evening.
Good evening. I live at 247 Fox Hills Drive, and it's in Carriage Estates. I want to thank you guys because I don't hear the noise at the golf course anymore. So I'm here tonight because I saw a chat on Nextdoor and about this situation. And over the course of the 4.5 years I've lived here, it went from seeing couple people potpourried here and there to just a community that lives here, makes a mess, throws shopping carts down alleyways and on businesses. Just yesterday I saw a man with his sleeping bag barefooted on the 101 freeway walking in the emergency lane. I no longer go to CVS on Moore Park and Thousand Oaks Boulevard, and I'm very hesitant to go to my favorite urgent care there because of how dangerous it is, and there's an encampment that's been taken down, and like days later we see a different crew of people. We've kind of named it like the T.O. Skid Row. But anyway, so I also own a business in this area in Westlake. I employ, all 3 of my employees are from the Ventura County area, and I take great pride in that. And we use local vendors. Unfortunately, I just signed with a listing agent, and we are selling our home, and we are moving our business because of the homelessness issue. And the freeways, when you go off the on and off the on-ramps, which were pristine when we moved here, are now ridden with condoms and bottles. And this is what my children are seeing. We can't walk anymore because it's not like the people that are out there are just people that that need help and they just got a bad shake. Like, they're very dangerous. They talk to themselves. I called 911 a couple times. One ended up with a gentleman that was burning a candle just a few feet away from the gas station, the gas pump. So needless to say, that vendor did not get my business that day. So same with the CVS. It's walking distance from my house, and I no longer use it. So I hate to be so callous, and I know people are probably just like, what is that crazy lady doing? But my parting gifts to my neighbors who have been amazing to me is saying that this is why I'm leaving. And so hopefully it'll get back to normal and be okay. Thanks.
Thank you. We have no more speakers. Any comments or direction to staff? Ms. Bilda de Pena and then Mr. Adam.
Thank you. First of all, I do want to thank staff for doing what I believe is the first very thorough presentation about homelessness in the city of Thousand Oaks. I've been on the council 14 and a half years, and while we have mentioned the numbers of homeless people in our area and social services here and there, we've never really had a full detailed look at what homelessness causes, the impacts of homelessness on our community, and the need for services for the homeless, for those who are, unfortunately, for one reason or another, unable to have a roof over their head. So thank you to staff, City Manager Andrew Powers, for doing this, because I believe that tonight, with this presentation, will be the first step in the direction of trying to resolve the almost insurmountable challenge of dealing with homelessness. It's not easy, and I'm sorry that we have one resident who is leaving, but homelessness is affecting every community in Southern California and elsewhere. There is not one community that doesn't have a homeless person living among them. As someone who has served homeless meals to those underprivileged people, I have to say that the homelessness affects the working poor. When I serve meals to the homeless through my church, we have professionals coming that live in their cars. Well, I shouldn't say professionals, but people who are working, real estate agents, for example, who are working out of their car and living in their car and simply cannot provide. I see families with kids. And yes, there are people who appear to be dangerous, but that is precisely why they need help, whether that's provided by the church or by the city of Thousand Oaks. Now, we could try to just say, let another city deal with this, but truly, we should set an example, in my opinion. And I think that with the information that we have, with the progress that we have made, that is now a first step in that direction, as I said. Thank you, Ms. Caruth, for coming and presenting what, from a county level, what is happening in Ventura County. So I know that staff is looking for some sort of feedback, some guidance as to how to move forward. And what I would like to suggest this evening is to form a council ad hoc committee to deal with homelessness that perhaps will lead to some homeless task force that will consist of private citizens or simply a liaison that can be the middle person between social services and the government. Thank you, Deputy Cordova, for doing what you have been doing. It's not easy, and CVS was mentioned, the homelessness camp right there on Moore Park or off Moore Park Road. Yes, there have been incidents, unfortunately, that have been scary, And I think that the City of Thousand Oaks is working with CVS to see if they could, in the meantime, provide some security for their own employees. While that is just a Band-Aid, we obviously need to look at the bigger picture and to avoid such problems so that companies don't have to hire security guards. That said, I really would like to put forth a proposal to have an ad hoc committee of sorts, a standing committee that can tackle this problem.
Thank you, Ms. Villapena. Mr. Adam, followed by Mr. Price.
Thank you, Mayor. I serve on, on VCOG, Ventura Council of Governments. I represent the city, and we do work with the continuum of care. And after listening to the report tonight, it amazes me as to how much resources we throw at this problem. Social service organizations, Lutheran social services, cities, police departments, faith-based organizations, nonprofits, our library. It must amount to, I don't know the exact total, but millions of dollars that we spend to tackle this problem for a relatively very small population here in Ventura County. I'd love to see the number of what we spend per homeless person to make them not homeless. But what I've never quite been able to understand, and LA County is a different situation, but we have a relatively small population. Why, after spending all this time and all this money, does this problem continue to remain intractable? I mean, what is the essence of why homelessness persists? There must be something I'm missing, because we're sure throwing a lot of money at it to cure it, and we're not curing it.
I think from looking at Miss Carruth there, perhaps you can step up, and you're probably best equipped of the folks here this evening.
Yes, thank you. I would say that a lot of the reason that we have increasing homelessness across the country, and specifically in Southern California, a lot has to do with the housing costs don't match with the amount of income people have, whether that's working people that are living in their cars or stacked up with multiple families in a home, or a disabled person who's on Social Security income who receives less than $1,000 a month. They literally don't have any place to go unless we have subsidized units available for them, and those are limited. And even I hear from our local housing authorities that those Section 8 vouchers that provide a subsidy, you have a really hard time finding a landlord who's willing to take that when they can rent to a city or county employee who has, a significantly more sizable income. I will say that nationally, the research shows that the cost to house someone is significantly less than the cost of managing homelessness out on the streets, the resources we put towards it.
Well, you bring up a very good point. The cost to managing someone on the street versus housing them is significantly more. So why haven't we switched to a more permanent housing solution?
Well, and we do. That's part of why the HUD Continuum of Care has shifted that focus. The challenge is we only get, just over $2 million for this community, and that is, you have people that I mentioned before, the programs are successful. So for the permanent housing like Mini Mansion has, we get people into those units and we try to help people move on, but they still don't have, if they're disabled, they don't have increasing income to be able to move into market housing. So once we help people, it's successful that they stay there. And then for the other rental assistance, it's the same challenge as the vouchers. It's trying to find the appropriate housing in this market. And that really is starting to become more of a national issue as fewer people are buying and the rental market is becoming more competitive.
Mm-hmm. All right, thank you.
Mr. Price, followed by Mr. McCoy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is one of those uncomfortable discussions that seldom talked about in public, but is desperately needed. As the former chairperson of the National League of Cities Public Safety and Crime Prevention Committee, I can tell you that this is a discussion that every city across the country is having, at least perhaps not in public, but the council members, the elected officials are talking about it. And I don't think it's one thing. I think it's many things. Mental health is, in my view, probably the biggest contributor. We have a broken mental health system. It's no secret. And I think that the folks that, those vulnerable populations that we're running into, that we're seeing out on the streets that are suffering from mental health problems, are the ones that really put a face on this, and they're the ones who cause us to step back and say, hey, we've got a problem here that we need to solve. While there certainly are the folks out there that are that are living in their cars because they can't afford the rents that are being charged nowadays. That is a housing crisis that needs to be dealt with. I think in our community here, the majority of what we are seeing and what I'm hearing about through our residents are the mentally ill folks that are out there living in the bushes. And so for me, that's something that we need to attack. And I know that the city of Salt Lake had a program there, and I had the opportunity to travel there a couple of years ago for a National League of Cities conference, and I was just blown away by the difference in the way their downtown appeared to what it had looked like just a few short years earlier. And I was really struck when I was standing on their brand new light rail platform waiting for one of their free light rail trains to come by, and I watched a homeless individual bend over and pick up a cigarette. And I thought, well, gee, that's sad. He's going to field strip it and get whatever tobacco he can out of it and put it in a pouch. But he didn't do that. He actually took it over and threw it in a trash can. And I was blown away by that. There was a recent news article, I may have read it yesterday or today, that talked about programs where the homeless are being employed to go around and actually clean up the mess that others have created. And I think that some of those sorts of programs bear looking at as well. So I for one, think this is a great discussion. I think it's a great idea to form some sort of an ad hoc committee to take a look at the best practices. And I think it is a problem that can be dealt with. I know that the Salt Lake model, they reduced their homeless population by about 90%. So the chronically homeless folks. So there's work to be done, and there are things that can be done. So appreciate the comments.
Thank you, Mr. Price. Mr. McCoy.
I would agree to the ad hoc committee. The idea of government being involved, I think of first party, second party, third party purchase. A first party purchase is you buy something for yourself with your own money, so you look for price and quality. Second party, you buy something for yourself with somebody else's money, so price is irrelevant. But a third party purchase is you buy something for somebody else with somebody else's money, so there's going to be waste and graft, and that's the definition of every government purchase. I say that because we can't resolve this issue without the private sector being involved in it. Every one of the folks that are struggling with homelessness, the social pathology has a story, and everyone has a different set of circumstances, and someone needs to walk with them through it. Our government workers are overwhelmed, and they want to do the best they can, but to think it's strictly a government issue, we have got to have the private sector involved. I think about Salt Lake City was brought up, but I also think about Albuquerque, New Mexico. 1.1 million live in that area, and they've had a tremendous effect on homelessness, not just reducing the number of homeless, but getting them into the productive world of the country. So I think an ad hoc committee is absolutely necessary, but we need a public-private combination to do this. In Fresno, when I lived there, we had the second highest murder rate, second highest car theft rate, second only to Newark, New Jersey. Public and private got together. Highest crime rate drop in FBI statistic history, became America's finest city, by 1997. We can do that here. We have a limited group of folks that are struggling on the brink of homelessness and others who are. And if we, with public and private, through the ad hoc committee, and I really have to emphasize private because the social pathology has to have a human being walking somebody through this. Everybody's got a story, so I'm all in favor of it.
All right. Any further comments, directions of staff on this item? Ms. Lieutenant mentioned an ad hoc committee. Do we need to bring that back?
Yes, as with traditionally with creation, we'll take that as feedback and come back to the council to add that to our council member assignments list. Certainly, if there's interest on the part of specific council members, we can take that direction and move it forward at our next meeting.
Okay. Count me in.
All right. Very good. I'd also be willing to serve on that as well. So I guess we'll have to figure out who's going to be on that committee again. Ms. Bilda Pena.
Yes. Thank you. I wanted to say that the private sector is already kind of involved, and I do agree that we need buy-in from private sector. The churches, all of the churches are the ones right now which are providing the food and the shelter, and thank God for them doing that. I wanted to say that I will be out this week, this Thursday, with Tara, counting the homeless, and we'll hopefully provide a report at the next council meeting. It will be my very first homeless count. We already had our orientation meeting, and we will actually be going all digital with the first app to be counting the homeless. So I'm looking forward to that. It will be a very educational experience for me personally. And yes, I would like to move that we form an ad hoc committee and bring that back perhaps at the next council meeting. And I know Mayor Fox does have an interest, being a firefighter. He deals with and sees homeless people on a regular basis as well. So we can make that decision then at the next council meeting.
Okay, very good. If there's no further discussion and no objection, then we'll just ask staff to bring that back. All right, that concludes this item. We'll move to item 9B. That's our second department report. 9B is the citywide performance measures initiative. We'll give staff an opportunity to readjust. Providing this report will be Ms. Wagner. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. Tonight, we are excited to share an update with you all on our new citywide performance measure initiative and its accompanying quarterly report. We'll be providing you with some background on how we got here today and show you that we are continually evolving as a more data-driven organization. Performance measures were first developed in 2005 to promote greater transparency. They were then integrated into the fiscal year 2007-8 and 2008-9 budget, where departments listed specific programs with objectives. They were then integrated into an annual goals and objectives document, which also included benchmarking with other cities. The data for our previous measures were tracked annually. So the way that we track and analyze data as an organization has evolved over time. The original performance measurements developed the past decade from 2005 to 2015 included hundreds of output-based measures where, as I mentioned, our goals and objectives document included over 400 outcome-based measures. And these measures were also associated with city council goals. And in 2016, city council identified performance measures as one of their top priorities, which initiated a more progressive approach to data collection and analysis that we are currently implementing today. The new dynamic performance measures build off of some of the previous measures, and they include fewer, more meaningful outcome-based measures that are also directly linked to your goals. They have customized reporting and allow us to collect data more frequently, such as quarterly or annually. I think it's also important to note that this new initiative really represents a cultural shift in our organization in the way in which we utilize data and incorporate it into more of our decision-making processes, and allows departments to really evaluate their operational effectiveness and efficiencies. And now I'm going to turn it over to our senior financial analyst in the finance department, Purvi Badwala. She has really taken on a lead role in this initiative. She's worked very closely with all departments over the past 2 years, helping them understand the importance of performance measures and helping them select meaningful measures that they can incorporate into internal as well as external processes. So, Purvi?
Thank you, Rachel. So, how did we start this process? We started with meeting with other agencies that already had performance measures established as the city, such as the City and County of San Francisco and the City of Fort Collins, Colorado. This gave us an idea for how outside agencies have approached this initiative and learned from their struggles and successes. We also did research on agency websites to see how performance measures can be linked to the budget process and what budget and quarterly reporting can potentially look like. After we did some research with outside agencies, we put a really heavy focus on training and educating staff on how to create meaningful performance measures and initiate the culture shift to more outcome-based measures and data-driven analytics. Once staff was trained, I met with staff from each division across the city, where we looked at our existing measures and brainstormed on a whiteboard or a simple blank piece of paper on what really mattered in their division. This led to identifying key areas of focus within their division. A part of the discussion also included understanding the linkage between the council goals and the measure itself. From this activity, we identified a large set of measures to ensure we had a good selection to work with. Many of these performance measures are categorized as internal and external, as well as quarterly and annual reporting frequencies. The focus was on keeping only meaningful measures where the data is also easily available. This was an iterative process where we constantly thought about which measures would provide us the most value to enhance business processes and become a more efficient organization. We also took into consideration developing performance measures based on topics that are of interest and importance to the public, based on the Community Attitude Survey and other public outreach efforts. Then, we went through an exercise of filtering out measures that either we couldn't easily get the data for or didn't make sense to track. Once this list was finalized by each department director, we mapped these measures to council goals, ensuring strategic alignment. This completed the first phase of the measure development process. We then started our second phase, which involved documenting our data collection methods to ensure consistency and repeatability between reporting periods. We worked with each division to identify various aspects of data collection, such as the steps to follow to collect the data for the measure, any additional information that would help explain the measure, along with who owns each measure. Once the data collection methods were identified and documented, our focus is on increasing data transparency through internal and external data reporting capabilities. This will assist in our data-driven analysis and decision-making efforts. We'll now see a snapshot of the performance measures that we have developed. In addition to our city departments, we are also including performance measures for the fire and police departments. These are two priority areas for the public. Here, we see the number of fire responses. We also see that it is mapped to the council goal, commitment to public safety. And we see Q1 and Q2 data. Now, we see the number of traffic citations for the police department, also mapped to commitment to public safety, along with Q1 and Q2 data. This is an example of an internal measure, the square feet of sidewalk replaced. It's mapped to the council goal, essential infrastructure. The results displayed here do not include newly built sidewalks, and that will be a separate measure.
Sorry to interrupt, Purvi. I just want to also point out that that it does not include the construction of new sidewalks, because in the next year or two, we have several projects that will be coming forward involving new sidewalks, including, just to name a few, Westlake Boulevard, Willow Lane, and Conejo School Road. So we'll be able to include those as a separate measure. Thanks.
One-year city website visitors. This is an example of an annual measure. One thing to note here is that we see prior year data that we can analyze to project forward. And this is mapped to commitment to community. And the last measure we have here is average marketing cost per ticket sold. And it is mapped to it's currently mapped to the council goal, fiscally and managerially responsible. Here we have a measure that can be mapped to multiple council goals. This measure can also be mapped to commitment to community. Here, a lower cost of marketing per ticket sold reduces the cost of the show and reflects the effectiveness of our marketing efforts for a particular performance. This is an example of what a public dashboard would look like on our employee website, external facing. It would be highly interactive. We anticipate a public dashboard being available by the end of this year. Someone using the dashboard can click on a council goal. Then they can see all the measures associated with that council goal. Then click on the measure and be able to visualize the data. What you see here is just sample data. We are looking forward to further refine our performance measures and to continue with the more data-driven culture leading to regular reporting and data transparency.
So that concludes our quarterly update for you. Just to note that the quarterly report is available online on our website at toaks.org/transparency. And just a reminder about this specific webpage, this was created as part of our new website that we launched in fall 2016 to increase transparency and promote more accountability citywide. And once the dashboard that Purvi mentioned is completed, when we have a year's worth of data sometime before the end of the year, we'll also put that dashboard on there, and visitors can go in and really find specific information. We have representatives in our audience from all departments if you have any specific questions for them. I'm also joined by our Deputy Finance Director, Jamie Boscarina, who can also assist with any information. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wagner. Mr. Powers, you want some final comments?
Yeah, just a quick comment to thank the team for putting this together and the executives that have helped contribute to this initiative. We felt it was important this evening to give the council a little bit of background. This is a significant shift, especially for those council members that have been on the council for quite some time. We had an old goals and objectives process that served the city for a number of years. This is an important transition, and it's one that is impacting the way in which we manage operations throughout the organization. Subsequent reports on this will be given in on a quarterly basis and put up on our website so that folks can very easily and tangibly look at this information. It helps to tell a little bit more about the city's story and the services that we're providing to our residents, and it certainly helps in terms of our internal operations. So thanks for giving us an opportunity to present this. We're happy to answer any questions that you have.
All right. Mr. Adam, you have some questions or comments?
Thank you, Mayor. A couple of comments and a question. Yeah, I like the system. It's easy to follow. Rates the different departments and their functions in a easy to follow manner. And I noted that about 80% of the departments and their functions were rated good, which I think is a good first step here. I have to comment about the finance department. John Adams is not here, but Jamie is. That got a good rating as far as how we invest our money, because our money is competitive with a benchmark. It's issued by the Federal Reserve. It's a 2-year Treasury, but regardless, it's competitive with the benchmark. If our yield was a little higher than that benchmark, it would show that we were taking too much risk. If our yield was a little lower, it would show we were taking not enough risk. So we're just where we need to be, which the moral of the story is we don't have to stretch for yield, we don't have to take excessive risk, and we can stay with the benchmark and get a good rating. Thank you. And lastly, and I do see exactly how this ties in with the council goals. See how you put it together there. I wonder, there's another list that's kind of the council priorities, which are a little more specific. Do you think in the future maybe we can kind of rate some of those as well? Meaning, and again, they're a little more specific, like the RAMs, for example, like our downtown, like our housing, like economic development. Yeah, I mean, we don't have to do it tonight, but take a look at that and see if there's a way we can kind of see if we're in the good area on those more specific priorities.
So I'll take that one first. Councilmember Adam, we will absolutely, to the extent that measures align with individual priorities, we'll work to do that. One of the things that we've really strived to do in this process is to, if you remember the old process, we had just a litany of items that measured things, some meaningful and some not. And so we've tried to strip away all of that and just really focus on the things that we have data points for, that we have the ability to measure and track, and it has some meaning. Now, everything doesn't fall into those categories, but there are certainly items that are on that priority list that are already tied in some capacity to our measures, and we will strive to do that every year where it makes sense.
Just before we leave this item, as for the viewing public, this is something that I wouldn't say many cities, but a number of cities are moving to and have been moving to. Many times people want to compare and say that government should run like a business. And this is a great example of how, in many ways, we're moving towards some accountability. You can usually measure a business by, are they making money? Are they staying in business? In government, we provide services, not so much a business, so we don't have a profit margin or shareholders other than our residents. And so this is an opportunity for the city through performance metrics to determine if it's working in an efficient and an effective way. And these metrics are extremely important to align with council goals and priorities, and for transparency for the community, so they can actually take a look and see, for example, response times for police or fire, see how long it takes the city to deal with a permit over the counter, how many sidewalk miles we're repaving, and so on. And so it's a great opportunity. Fully endorse it and commend the city staff for moving us towards this. It's going to serve us well into the future. If there's no objection, we'll receive and file that report.
I have a question.
Ms. Villa de Pena.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Fox. I know when we talk about our visioning project, it's hard to give that benchmarks, but if at all possible, we've mentioned this in the past, that perhaps we can make some reference to the points in our visioning pamphlet. That would be appreciated. Thank you.
All right. If there's no objection, we'll just incorporate that. And we will move to receive and file this report without objection. We'll move to item 12. That's council issues and recommendations. 12A is the committee assignments. Council has that in their packet. One addition is the Economic Development Committee, and for this year, we're going to ask Mr. Price and Mr. McCoy to serve on that committee. It's the intent that as we move forward on that, we also rotate that position, some of those positions, to give other council members an opportunity, but to fill in the blank there. And unless there's questions on the committee recommendations, would ask council for a motion to approve. Ms. Villa de Pena.
I make a motion to approve. I do have a question, though. There is a committee that is recommended to be dissolved. Does that have to be part of the formal motion?
If it's in the report, I think we're good.
It says here recommended dissolution. So if it's recommended, then I think we need to include in the motion that we actually want to do that. The number 11, Thousand Oaks Redevelopment Successor Agency Oversight Board is transitioning to the county. Is that something that we, Mr. Powers, need to eliminate as well, or no?
I hesitate, being that that's a formal creation of the state, I hesitate to do it yet until we get through a full year. Mr. Heher, would you agree with that?
I would agree, and I think as Mr. Fox, Mayor Fox mentioned, this report is reflective of those changes, and therefore, if you accept the report, then the motion would be appropriate.
Okay, very good.
I was looking over at Ms. Rodriguez, who indicated July is the
July. Okay, very good. And then my third question is number 16, VRSD, Regional Sanitation District. I've been the alternate for a number of years. I've never attended. Mr. Price, do we need to have an alternate per their bylaws, or?
I think they do like to have an alternate. I think it's required.
Okay, very good. Okay.
And apparently you're doing a great job.
There you go. So, okay, then I move approval.
All right. Ms. Billy-Pena moves approval. Discussion? Prepare the vote.
The motion carries 5-0.
And that is approved. Follow-up reports on meetings and conferences attended by council members. Mr. Price, did you have any? None? Okay, hearing none. We'll move to the city manager report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Our next regularly scheduled city council meeting will be on Tuesday, the 6th of March, where we'll have a presentation recognizing the Instrumentation Person of the Year for the California Water Environment Association, our own Enrique Perez from the Hill Canyon Treatment Plant. We'll have two public hearings, one for Griffin Fine Living and one for Castle Hill Retirement. We'll have a department report providing an update and introduction of the downtown master plan, along with the 2018 pavement overlay and slurry award of construction contract. That is it for this evening.
Okay. We have some closed session items. Mr. City Attorney, you want to?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The closed session conference will be regarding real property negotiators. Property number 1 is 1868 East Thousand Oaks Boulevard. The city negotiators include Andrew Powers, the city manager, John Adams, finance director, Hader Alawami, economic development manager, and Larry Cosment of Cosment Companies. The negotiating parties are 1868 TO LLC. The second property is 1818 Oakwood Drive, same city negotiators. The negotiating parties would include Scott and Danita Lease Trust. This closed session is based on under negotiation purchase of properties, including price and terms of payment pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.8, and there will be nothing to report out.
Thank you. We are going to adjourn tonight with two adjournments. Our first adjournment will be for a well-known conductor, musician in our community, Mr. Elmer Ramsey. Tonight we are adjourning in the memory of a great musician, an icon. Mr. Ramsey passed away this month. The founder and director of Sherwood Singers and Conejo Pops Orchestra, he is known for his countless contributions to the community as a composer, a musician, and an educator. Elmer began conducting at the California Lutheran College Community Symphony as it became the Conejo Symphony Orchestra and led it for 30 years. Ramsey co-founded the long-running Oakleaf Music Festival and the essential Conejo Pops Orchestra. Elmer created music that has marked several milestones in Thousand Oaks. He wrote songs for the inaugurations of 2 CLU presidents, composed the Silver Jubilee for the 25th anniversary of the Conejo Symphony, and wrote Portrait of Thousand Oaks for the city's 25th anniversary. Every 4th of July for 45 years, Maestro Elmer Ramsey and the Conejo Pops Orchestra performed for the community. A Thousand Oaks resident for over 50 years, Elmer became a professional musician at the age of 14 and began playing trumpet in Los Angeles. Over the years, he performed on the Ernie Ford Show, the Jimmy Durante Show, and for 20th Century Fox Studios. He also conducted concerts at the Hollywood Bowl. Elmer became a professor at CLU in 1965 and retired in 1992. He received an honorary doctorate from California Lutheran University in recognition of his decades of service to the university and devotion to the arts. Elmer and Elaine, whom he met in high school and married 67 years ago, raised 5 kids, was a grandfather and a great-grandfather. Elmer fostered a love and appreciation for music among our community and is an essential part of Thousand Oaks life and history. We wish his family our thoughts and prayers, and may he rest in peace. Our second adjournment this evening is for a young Lorena High School student. Gabriella Chabot was born on February 16th, 2003, right here in Thousand Oaks. She was a ninth grader at Lorena High School, where she was loved by her teachers and her many friends. Gabriella was proud to earn a place on Lorena's junior varsity tennis team. Her father, Michael, says Gabriella loved photography, and she was always taking funny pictures of her loved ones. Everyone who knew Gabriella knew that her sense of humor was contagious, which drew so many people to her. Gabriella adored her family, and she loved her friends dearly. Her family says Gabriella was an affectionate girl who gave the best hugs and lots of sweet kisses. Her favorite color was purple. She was a loving, beautiful, caring, intelligent girl who was a bright light in the lives of all who knew her. Her beautiful smile and kind character touched the hearts of people everywhere. Gabriella became an angel on Thursday, February 8th, 2 weeks after contracting the flu, a few days before her 15th birthday, which was last Friday. Her family celebrated it with friends and the release of balloons. Gabriella will be deeply missed by her loving parents, Michael and Janice Chabot, her sister Isabella, her brother Nico, her maternal grandparents, Henry and Elena Verarde, her paternal grandparents, Michael and Kathy Chabot, and many aunts, uncles, and cousins. I believe Ms. Bilda La Peña has some information regarding Gabriella's memorial.
Thank you, Mayor Fox. The family has established a memorial fund. It's named the Gabriella Chabot Memorial Scholarship Fund, established through Lorena. And if anyone wishes to contribute to this scholarship in her memory, you may go online, lorena.com, and contribute to that fund. Her favorite color was purple, and I know that sending these pictures to the city for the family was very difficult, having to sift through all of these photographs. So we thank the Chabot family very much for providing these photos to the city of Thousand Oaks to honor their daughter. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bilda La Peña, and our thoughts and prayers go to both the Ramsey and the Chabot family. With that, we will adjourn to our next regularly scheduled council meeting on March the 6th, 2018. We are adjourned.